Hello guys and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, please be sure to check out my other videos to see if any of them might help you out with a do-it-yourself repair. YouTube provides me with statistics that show only about 10% of my video views come from subscribers. It would really help out with YouTube's algorithm to promote my videos if you would just click subscribe below. It costs you nothing and I would appreciate the support. Let's get on to today's video.
Okay guys, today's video we're going to be back on the 1993 Honda Civic, and I'm going to finally address this problem I've had with the HVAC head unit since the day I bought the car. This slider here operates the blend door, of course, between cold and hot, and this, when it slides, there is a raised plastic track back here that it slides over, and that track is broken back there. I'm going to get this head unit out of the car and taken apart, and I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is. This has a mechanical actuator just under the dashboard there that operates the blend door. It is not a electric one or a motor. So when you actually slide this, there is a wire that slides behind the dash there that actually mechanically opens and closes the blend door. When I get into it, I'm going to show you a little bit better explanation of how that all works. But our first step is going to be to get this out. This piece here has to come off, which it starts here and it basically goes to there. We have to take the radio out. This piece is pretty easy. You have a bolt on either side, and then you have two more that are under here. And also take your ashtray out. Let's set the camera up and let you watch that happen. All right, all we need for this is a Phillips head screwdriver. All right, with the 4 bolts out, I'm gonna take the ashtray out. Mainly I have change and stuff in there. When we pull this out, it's gonna fly around. Okay, with those loose, it just pops right out just like that. Once you get to this point, there is a connector here. I guess that works the lights and all. We're just gonna set that in the floorboard. Now I'm going to turn my attention to my radio. Everybody's radio is probably different at this point, so just going to get this pulled out. Okay, with the radio out, I'm going to turn my attention to where the HVAC unit is connected to the car. This connector here needs to go. It has a place to pinch it here. And you may need to get a screwdriver in there to pull that one apart. All right, with that disconnected, it's going to have a couple of these connectors that you have to pop out like that. And then up here at the top, I'm going to move the camera and show you there's actually one more connector in the back here we have to get to. All right, and the last connector we need to do to disconnect is this one here. It's secured with another one of those fasteners at the top. You can probably get that out without taking that apart. Okay, with that disconnected, now we're ready to turn our attention to the bolts that are holding the HVAC head unit into the dash. And then it should just slide right out, just threading all these wires up with it. I'm going to try my best to show you that screw that's right there. If we just come up to the bottom of the Phillips head there, we can grab that one. Okay, with that screw out, I'm ready to take my unit out because it's missing bolts and nuts. But if yours has never been taken out before, you're not missing your fasteners like I am, there's also going to be a screw in this neighborhood underneath this piece here, and another one on the opposite corner there. So you use a stubby screwdriver or an angle, like a 90-degree angle screwdriver, and get those two out, and you should be ready to go. The next thing that we need to do before we pull the head unit out is to disconnect the mechanical wire that runs to the blend door. I'm going to show you where that's at right now. All right, this is going to be very hard to show. I'm going to have to basically lay the camera flat to get a shot of it. But this is the wire that comes from your HVAC unit, and you see it's got the loop around it. And that loop goes around this actuator here, or the door for the blend door. And how that works is just going to slide it back and forth like that. So you just pull that loop off, and then everything just kind of threads back up underneath the dash. And just make sure you're very careful when you're pulling that out to get your HVAC head unit out of the dash. Okay, with all of that disconnected, I'm ready to start to pull this out. And when you get to that point, what you're going to need to do is start going back under here and start threading those wires, help them to get back out through the top so they can follow the head unit out, as well as your wire that runs to your blend door. Okay, and so I've snaked those wires out from behind there and got that cable that runs down to the blend door out, and my unit is now free. I'm going to take this up to my evil scientist laboratory, and we're going to take this thing apart, and I'm going to show you what's wrong with it. I'm going to show you my eccentric, I would say, fix for this. Okay, I've got the head unit here in the secret evil laboratory to make it a little easier to video and show you what I'm going to do here. The first thing I'm going to show you is how that the mechanical actuator works. So basically, as you slide the heat from cold to hot and back and forth, it moves this wire, and that wire actually moves that in and out to mechanically move the actuator for the blend door. The first thing I need to do is get this metal plate here off. There are more screws than I have. I'm missing some. There's one here and there's one here that is missing. So I'm going to go ahead and get those off. The one that is in the corners is going to be a longer one than the ones that are, or the bottom corner is going to be longer than the ones in the top corner. And there's another screw here, a small one we need to get, and that's ready to come off. All right, with that off, you can see under here this raised track. This is the fan switch here, and the switch rides along that track to keep it pointing straight. And what has happened with mine is on the blend door side, the entire track is now gone. It started off with a big break in the middle, and once it would get to the break, you couldn't move the switch anymore. So I tried a couple of different things to try to fix that. And the last thing I did is I actually took the entire track out. I did something that did not work. This is going to be my final shot. I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about that. Before I get there, I'm going to go ahead and take all of this off to make it a little bit easier to get to where I need to be. The button comes out. With that out, you can turn that sideways and slide it out. I'll take this and turn it sideways, and you can see the track that rides along that raised plastic piece that is broken off. This here, you just turn this counterclockwise, and it pulls right off. Pick the whole lever up, and then just take it out of this wire that has one of those Z-bends in it. So the magic trick that I'm going to do to fix this is I'm actually going to build my own track like this. So I need it to be the right length, the right height, and the right width. In order to do that, I use a pair of calipers, measure the thickness, measure the height, and then of course the distance that I need from here to here, like so. Okay, this is a website that is called tinkercad.com. It's a free resource where you can go and use their web-based programs to create your own 3D images that you can export and then convert to G-code to use in a 3D printer. Now, I am going to use a 3D printer, of course, to make this track. I realize that most of you do not have access to something like that, but this is just me showing you how I went about that. And you can see here in the image, I have the sizes that I've measured with my caliper to make this,
And once I do the printing with it, it has been my experience it usually comes out pretty accurate. Let's move on to the printing now. And this is the piece that I just took off of the 3D printer. How the 3D printer makes that is it intentionally builds this base at the bottom that actually holds it steady during the printing process, and it's designed to be torn off when you're finished. Which I'm going to glue right there. Now I have tried to glue pieces in here before, different items, and I could never get it to set right. I've tried it with JB Weld and epoxies. I've done a test already with this product, which is basically just super glue, the Gorilla brand of the super glue, and this is a gel. So what I'm going to do is liberally coat the bottom of this and just glue it down, and I'm going to give it plenty of time to set up. Okay, I've given this plenty of time to set up. I came in here with a Dremel tool and I kind of rounded some edges off and made sure that it was smooth around the track to allow this thing to slide back and forth without any kind of resistance. The first thing I'm going to do is insert this piece back in here, lay it over the track. And my next step is going to be to put the lever back on, going through your wire. I'm going to pull it back and gently place it underneath there, and then we're going to lock it back down here with its little tab. Come in with our button, put that on, make sure it's pointing in the right direction. The part where the light should be pointing up, where the light shines through, I should say. Okay, and with that on, I'm ready to test the actuator, or the sliding mechanism, whatever you want to call it. And that looks like a win to me. The only thing that I would be bit concerned about is the strength of that glue. We'll see how well it lasts, hot and cold, heating up. You know, if I can get a couple years out of that repair, I'm going to be very happy with it. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on the track. And I'm going to come back and get that back secured, and then we're going to go out and get it back in the car. All right, we had the head units greased up and put back together, and it's ready to be reinstalled to the dashboard now. So as you put the head unit in here, of course, you want to make sure that your wires all thread back through where they're supposed to, as well as that cable that operates the blend door. You can see back here where my finger's pointing, there's a little gap back there, and that should come out from behind the dash right where that needs to go. So when we put all this back in, just make sure you get all your wires going in the right direction before you slide it home. We'll go ahead and get that done.
Now I'm going to get up underneath it and get the wire snaked to where they need to be, and I will get in the floorboard on the passenger side and show hooking that blend door wire back up. Okay, I was going to try to show myself doing that, but there's just no way I can film the camera at the same time. But as you can see, the loop from your wire goes around this here, and then this part here it clips into to hold that steady during operation. All right, so I'm going to get back up top and we're going to operate the blend door and make sure that everything's working correctly. Okay, with that hooked back up, I've reconnected the one screw I have, and don't forget yours, you have one here and one here. All that's left is get the radio back in and get the bottom piece. Before you put that bottom piece, don't forget your connector here for the lights down there. So at this point, this is sliding pretty smoothly. I'm going to call that a win. The thing with the 3D printer, the plastics, it's not very strong. It can't be, I guess, with the technology where it's at. So this may work for a while. I'm just going to have to always be gentle with that, and don't let any passengers go start grabbing that and break that off and ruin all of my hard work I just showed you here today. Now, I realize most people don't have a 3D printer. This is just me. I was trying to show you a way that I was thinking kind of out of the box of how to repair that. But to be honest, the 3D printers are not that expensive for the lower quality ones, and they still do the job pretty well. There's all kinds of little clips and things that you could run across on one of these old cars that you would not be able to find unless you went to a junkyard and got lucky. Whereas with the 3D printer, if you're a little bit savvy with running the program to create the piece, the 3D rendering of your piece, then it's just a matter of plugging that in and trying to see if it works. With all that said, I'm going to call this a win for right now. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you on the next video.